This is the biggest name in Australian wrestling, the Jaystick, JXT. And you're locked on to pwdownunder.com.
Jaystick, JXT.
Hey wrestling fans, welcome to PW Down Under. My name is Andy. I'm joined tonight by the Jaystick, JXT. Welcome, mate.
What's going on, people? Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Andy.
Thank you for joining us, mate. Now, tough to know where to start with you. You're a veteran of Australian wrestling. Now, tell us about your start.
I always used to rip on people that would call themselves veterans. We started back in 2011, so I guess that makes me somewhat of a local veteran at least. Never grew up, found New Age Wrestling. I knew about George Julio's gym down in Sunshine. I messaged Crackerjack when I was, I think, 15 on MySpace. And he got back to me and let me know about George's gym, said you had to be 18. I met Jake Navarra through a mutual friend, and I told them that I was 18. He knew I wasn't 18, but he went along with it, and he got me in to have a tryout with Mike Manson, and then I passed the tryout with flying colours, and then I've been training ever since.
So in 12 years, what have been the highlights of that career?
Wrestling at the Colac RSL. I always say from the ECW arena to the Colac RSL, like there's the two parallels. I love them both in their own way. But yeah, the ECW arena for Impact Wrestling was pretty cool for sure.
Yeah.
I wrestled at the ECW Game Changer Wrestling in Philly. That was pretty cool. They were two big ones. Obviously, like I've had New Japan tryouts, WWE tryouts. Going to the Performance Center, like being invited down and getting to have a match there and stuff was pretty cool. Even all the times like doing extra work for WWE, as silly as that might sound, that's actually such an experience in itself if you've never done that, and I've been lucky enough to do it a handful of times, so yeah, they're all up there.
What do you reckon has changed in your 12 years in Australian wrestling?
A lot. It's very different to when I broke in, and I know when we're taking training at the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling, myself, Fox, and Jake Navarra are very much like, we remind the students often of like, you're so lucky that like compared to when we came in, like when we started our wrestling school, the gym, the ropes were loose, like you couldn't tighten the ropes and run them properly, you couldn't do a suplex because the roof was too low, and then when we did shows, a lot of the old timers would just beat you up a little bit, you know, and they'd make you earn it, whereas now it's a lot more safe and a lot more everyone working together. People are more educated too. There's more, you know, the training is a lot better. The people who have done like stuff overseas and wrestled on big shows with big names are actually training people. Like, to meet someone that had wrestled on TV in the United States was unheard of in 2011 when I broke in, let alone to be trained by them. So yeah, that's gone a long way in Australian wrestling. The level of the standard here has improved vastly in the last 12 years.
Yeah, it sure has. Tell us more about your overseas tour. I haven't heard you talk about that a lot.
I went in 2016. I did training at OVW and then at Chikara. I went again in 2019. I trained at WrestlePro. That's when I worked with Game Changer and Impact and WrestlePro. Then I went back and did WrestlePro Alaska for a tour. And then in 2020, which was before the pandemic, so it was early, I went for another tour and I got stopped at customs and arrested, and I'm no longer allowed back to the United States on a tourist visa. So
oh wow,
that's why the tour was stopped. Yeah.
Dare I ask
stuck here in Australia?
Dare I ask what you did?
No, nothing. I was just they deemed that I had the wrong visa, and as all people traveling to the United States from Australia, we go as a tourist because it's under 3 months. But for some reason they picked me, whether I got dobbed in or whether it was just bad luck or I'd gone too many times in a short period of time. But I've known people that have gone way more times than me. But it's just, I don't know. I got arrested and they said, hey, we deem that you're not here for tourist reasons, so you're not arrested, like there's no charges or anything, even though I was in jail for 15 hours.
Wow.
We're sending you back on your own accord, but you can't come back on a tourist visa. So I don't have any information. I've got a stamp in my passport, but I've Googled that and I've spoken to lawyers, and no one can give me a straight answer on how long I'm banned for, if I'm even banned. So unless I get a work visa, aka signed to a major deal, I'm not going to the United States again.
Devastating. That was
Me.
yeah. And I guess that happened pre-COVID. Wrestling shut down, and then you came back and got injured soon after.
Yeah, so it's funny because COVID started happening about a week after I came back. So people were like, oh, well, lucky that happened anyway, because you would have had to come back. Like, no, not lucky that happened. Like, I'm banned. What luck is that? It's not lucky at all. But yeah, I think a lot of the injuries, and it happened to all of us, coming out of lockdowns, we just wanted to wrestle. So, and with the training school, I was training as often as I could and wrestling every show that I could. And I think I just came back a bit too hard, too fast, and I had I tore my hamstring, which was just a pure accident. There was liquid on the floor where I'd slipped when I was wrestling, and I was not aware of what was about to happen. That was just an accident. And then because my hamstring was torn, I think my other leg was compensating, and then I snapped my ACL, which is why I still can't wrestle until at least August, September.
Yeah, right. So at least another 6 months or so. And did you do that in a match or training or at the gym?
Part of me's glad I didn't do it wrestling, because I'm not scared to wrestle again. But the other part of me is like, Josh, you are an idiot. Why would you go and play footy? Because I was pissed off that I wasn't getting booked at the promotions that were using me at the time. And I was like, this is pissing me off. And I was like, screw wrestling. I'm going to go play footy, because I don't have much patience. And I think this is throughout my career, I push too hard for things to happen sometimes. And when you push too hard, the universe pushes back. So because I was pushing so hard, I was like, nah, screw you. I'm going to go and play footy instead. And in my third game, it was the first contest, just a basic lead-up mark, and then snapped my knee and just gave way. And I think that was because my leg was compensating for the torn hamstring on the other side, which I did get wrestling. So, yeah, I wish I did it wrestling, but part of me is glad I did.
You're still playing footy with a buggered hammy.
Well, I shouldn't have been playing.
I
was like 6-7 weeks after the hammy, so like technically it was healed, but although the injury's healed, your body's still got the mechanics that it's got to recover from. So yeah.
And so what are your hopes for when you come back?
My goal is to be what I call myself, the biggest name in Australian wrestling. When anyone thinks of wrestling in Australia, I want them to think of me. I want to be there at the forefront. I want to help Australian wrestling grow and become something. I'm not delusional, and I don't think making a living off pro wrestling, purely living in Australia and only wrestling in Australia, is that viable. But if we can just get it to a point where it's like, our whole goal with the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling is to leave wrestling where we live or make it a better place than when we found it. So if I can help grow wrestling here, bigger crowds, bigger opportunities for wrestlers, and for us to just grow as a whole industry here in Australia, because I can't leave, I ain't going anywhere. So I just want to make this as good as I can.
Yeah, cool. I've been going through some of my favourite JXT matches over the last 24 hours, and I'm fascinated by some of your intro music choices. Talk us through some of them.
Yeah. Which one are you fascinated with most?
I mean, obviously Killing the Name is a classic song, but you had remixed Sandstorm, which is a banger, and then you stopped using it.
So when I was younger, the idea behind the character was I'm young, party, energy, like young people have like no fear, and it was like young and full of energy, no fear, balls to the wall, let's go. And I thought that Sandstorm really encompassed that. Like you got the vibe of JXT once that hit and once I came out. And then as I got banned from the States and as lockdown happened, I was like, all right, I think at that point I was 27 or 28, and I'm like, all right, I was 27. I'm like, you're not too young anymore. Like, you're not old, but like young party boy who's balls to the wall doesn't really cut it. Plus, I completely wanted to shift and change my whole character. So I wanted that change to be visible and including audio. Like, I wanted, when I come out, you wanted to visibly see this is still JXT, but it's not the same JXT we knew 2 years ago before COVID. So I was like, okay, no more purple, no more dance music, no more balls to the wall dancing, fun loving. It was, arrogant, cocky, almost delusionally arrogant, killing in the name of was how the character felt. And yeah, I wanted that all to be visible, the change and the shift in JXT.
Yeah, cool. One of the things I'm really, really interested to ask you about is JXT is renowned as the doyen of Australian wrestling when it comes to gimmicks and merch. When did that start?
See, yeah, like, I think that I was branded as like, he's the merch guy. But in my head, every independent wrestler should be the merch person. Like, why are you not? Like, in my ideas, if you don't tan and you're not glistening and you don't have merch and you don't have Twitter, you're not a wrestler. Like, you're not taking this shit seriously. Like, and yeah, sure, not everyone's goal is to main event WrestleMania or to make a living out of this, and that's fine, and everyone does this for different reasons. But like, if you can't even tan, or you're not even trying to make a bit more money so you can buy some new gear, like, what are you doing? So like, when I first started, NAW had no merch table, not a single wrestler had merch, and Jake Navarro went to Kmart and printed off some photos and put them in it was like a 6x8 frame or something small. And when we went out to take photos with fans, he just had them in his hand, and he's like, yeah, they're $5 if you want one. And he sold some, so he's like, you should do it too, because Jake's always been like a mentor to me. So I went and started doing it. Then we both did it. Then once we started doing more shows, and we were like, instead of doing frame photos, we can do rubber wristbands, and we can do 8x10s, and so we can sign them. And then as that grew, we were like, well, this isn't enough to live off, but like, it'll pay for my next set of wrestling gear. And what I would do is any merch money I made, I put aside. And then that just steamrolled. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so branding is so important. I remember there was a famous Aussie wrestler who will remain nameless that when I told them, I was like, we are, as pro wrestlers, we are a brand. And they laughed at me and said, I'm an idiot. And he's like, well, they said, well, I'm not a brand, I'm just a wrestler. And now they call themselves a brand, so go figure. But it's the most important thing. Like, yeah, it's so, like, it is. Like, at the time, it's like, I got laughed at by it. This is why I don't like being called a veteran, by some of the older veterans at the time. But now it's the norm, and it should have been the norm for so long, and it should be. Like, I'm always telling my students, like, why do you not just have 8x10s to sell? Like, it's not about making money, it's about looking professional and just having it there. And if you do make some money, cool. And or if someone buys it, they'll take it, and they might follow your Instagram from that, so your brand grows. Like, it's all brand building, and it's all getting your name out there. And you can do this for 5 years, 10 years, or like me, 12 years, and people still don't know who you are. So you've always got to have it, and you've always got to be pushing that brand.
So you've got your very pink branded basketball top on tonight. I've got my blacklisted t-shirt on here. It is very nice. I like it a lot. Tell me how it grows from 8x10s and t-shirts to beanies and basketball jerseys and everything that you have.
Yeah, I think it's just about investing in yourself. Like, you start, like I said, it started with little framed, A5 photos, and then that grew to 8x10s, and I got little rubber wristbands, and then I got t-shirts, and then as that happened, everyone got t-shirts. So it's all right, how many times can you do? And I purposely never used to do black t-shirts when I started. I did purple t-shirts, then white t-shirts. Then I was like, all right, then I did black t-shirts, because fans do love black t-shirts. But then I was like, all right, we got to try and be different. So then I was like, all right, then I tried, and then I did basketball jerseys, and they were a big hit. Then I did baseball jerseys, and lately I did stubby holders and beanies, because I did when I was doing the dance music, I did light up glow sticks, which I still have, and I haven't finished selling. I had to buy them in 1,000 at a time, which I still got some. But I was just trying to be different and trying to think, what connects with people? What do people want? What do people want to spend their money on? How many times can they buy a JXT 8x10? Because there are fans that are dedicated, and they will continually buy your stuff just purely to support you. So you want them to get some value for their money, and you want to try and engage in new fans. So whatever you can do. And I know basketball jerseys in general, like people wear them in public more than they would, a gym singlet per se. So whatever was going to connect with the people is what I went for.
Yeah, cool. And pink has become very central to that brand. Is that Bret Hart fandom or just unique colour in Australian wrestling?
Well, yeah, I had the purple for so long. Excuse me. And I stripped all that back and went purely black and white because I wanted to show that visual difference. Like, this is JXT is different. And then I got bored, and the branding designer in me was like, I need colour, I need something to pop. I do love Bret Hart, but I also thought JXT is a delusional douche who's so full of himself, and I thought pink was the easiest colour. And even still to this day, I have people like, oh, you wear pink. And I thought that fits the gimmick, and I love it. So, and it's not too far away from the purple, so it's clearly different. Stands out. Like, some people love the pink, but then again, I think it hurts me sometimes because not everyone will wear a t-shirt with pink on it, which I get. But I just thought what would fit the character the most. Like, the character is so delusional, he believes his own self-hype. So, he's going to think this is the best and coolest thing ever. So yeah, a little bit of Bret, a little bit of what do I think looks best, and a little bit of what do I think works well for the character. Because again, we are a brand. The whole thing is a brand. The character, the feel, the vibe, the music, the look, the gear, everything has to fit, and it has to be on the same page. And I just felt that fit.
Cool. I'm just about to ask you about the Relentless School. Before we get there, I guess I'd like to ask, what do you teach students about marketing and branding?
It's a massive thing. Like, again, not every student comes in wanting to make a living or to get signed on main event WrestleMania. Some people are like, I just want to train if I have a match, cool. But I'm very big on, especially the guys that are more serious or the students that really want to take this further. I'm like, you need to have Twitter. You need to have 8x10s. You need to have promo pics. And I'll use the example. Like, when I designed the posters for the next show, I go, guys, if your photo looks like shit, I'm not going to use it. Like, we have one student and he was like, he hates social media, didn't have a photo for ages, but like now he has a Twitter, he has an Instagram, he has promo pics, he even has t-shirts as merch. Like, that's pivotal, and seeing that growth's great. And especially for the students that are real serious about this, I think they all benefit a lot from having me around just with that experience, because I didn't have anyone to teach me this. I had to learn it on my own and source basketball jersey makers in China, whereas now you can just, I know that I make basketball jerseys for my day job, whereas I had to find all this stuff myself when the internet was not there was no Alibaba, there was no Amazon or anything like that when I first started. So I had to find all this stuff myself. I remember my first basketball jersey, I had to do a Western Union transfer to India, and it was like $1,300. And as a 22-year-old, I was like, yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get scammed. I didn't, but like just figuring out how to even do that as a 22-year-old on I didn't know what Western Union was. I'm sending them to some random Pakistan bank account. I'm like, this is sketchy as. But like, I got there. I got my merch. It worked. So yeah, like I try and help the students as much as I can. And yeah, I'm on them about branding and marketing and social media. It's important. It's just, wrestling is not about wrestling. I always say the real working happens outside the ring. So I try and educate them that as best I can.
That is excellent, and it sounds like a really, I guess, well-rounded school that you're running at Relentless. Tell us more about that, the school that you run with Jake Navarro and Fox.
Yeah, I hope it can be a bit more well-rounded. Like, there's many schools in Australia, and I'm not going to say either or is better. Like, they all, and we even encourage our students, once they've learnt their basics and fundamentals with us, like, if they're training with us 4 times a week, go and train somewhere else 1 or 2 nights a week. Like, go and learn a new hold. Like, that's how we all got better, is we trained at different schools. I flew overseas to train at different schools, So it's, it's not just necessarily about us. It's about, like, giving, like you said, giving these students the most well-rounded training they can. And learning, I always, like, at first when Jake Navarro came to me and he was like, I think we should start a wrestling school, I was like, I'm not qualified. Who am I to be teaching people? I don't have the runs on the board. But the way he convinced me, he was like, well, why don't you just take beginners? And I was like, well, I guess people can learn from my mistakes. So if I can help them not make those mistakes, then we're ahead. But we just try and, like I said, things like merch and social media, even just how to talk to people, how to approach things, how to not emotionally get, too invested and upset and burn your bridges. Because there's obviously the roles, the bumps, learning to do the moves, learning how to put a match together and all that stuff. But then, focusing, like you said, on what entrance music to pick. These are good questions and good things we try and go into the students, because it's not just about if you can do a body slam or a Canadian destroyer. It's about everything else, which is, I think a big thing we focus on. And could partly be why we lose some students. They come in and they just want to do matches straight away. They just want to do moves, and then they stop training with us and they go and work shows where they know not much and they just know a few moves and they just do those moves and they don't get anywhere and they fizzle out. But if people are serious and they want to get the well-rounded experience, hopefully we can provide that for them and have been so far at the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling.
And how would I do it if I'm interested? How do I get in touch?
If you want to be a professional wrestler, you can sign up at, I'm pretty sure it's iamrelentless.com.au/pro wrestling. And there's no tryout. Like a lot of other wrestling schools, they're like, there's a tryout day. You've got to come down, do 1,000 squats and 1,000 push-ups. Oh, you couldn't do them. Too bad. Whereas we're the opposite. We think you don't need to have any base. Obviously, if you have a fitness base or an athletic background, it's great. It gives you an awesome leg up. But Relentless School of Pro Wrestling is run out of Relentless Gym, which is Jake Navarro's personal training, strength and conditioning gym, where he's a strength and conditioning coach. We also have other personal trainers that work out of there. We have a nutritionist that works out of there. So if you need to lose weight, if you need to get in shape, if you need to get fitter, if you need to put on muscle, like we have all that there available. So if you just sign up tomorrow and come down, you'll already start wrestling. You'll start learning the basics. And even if you're only fit enough to last for 2 minutes of the training session, that's 2 minutes more wrestling than you did last week. So we always tell people the sooner you sign up, the better. And for any and all types of people that want to sign up, like we're here and we'll do whatever we can to educate you and to help get you to where you want to be, which is not just, the wrestling side. If it's the fitness side, the conditioning that you need to be able to get into the ring, or if you want to be a wrestler or a manager, or you want to come and learn how to do sound and audio with us, because, we do that stuff too. So anything people need, Relentless School of Pro Wrestling has you covered.
Excellent. And one of the unique things that yourself, Jake, and Fox do is also run your own promotion at Mayhem out of Melton. Tell us more about that. How's that been going?
I hate being a promoter with a passion. And if you want to be on a Mayhem Pro show, please do not send me a bloody video or a thing. If your resume, and I'm not saying that's what's on it, if your resume, the way it's presented, if it's got match links and social media, if you can present a better looking resume than mine, then we'll take a look. But if not, we run our promotion because we have a wrestling school and we couldn't keep asking favors for other promotions, like, hey, can you put one of our guys on your show? Hey, we've got this student that's doing really well, because maybe put her on. Which DMGU have been great. Renegades of Wrestling's now doing it as well. Wrestle Rock have done a lot of promotions. Gippsland Pro Wrestling have helped us with giving our students experience, because we purely needed to start running shows, because you can't really run a wrestling school without having shows for them to start on. So we started running out of a necessity to sort of do that. So we run Mayhem Pro, we run in Bacchus Smash 3 or 4 times a year, and we've also just started running these shows called Showcase, Mayhem Pro Showcase, where they run out of the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling. They're student shows for the students, but in saying that, we've had a lot of experienced guys wrestle on them. The last one had Jake Navarro and Fox and Cousin Ali and Tyson Baxter and Aiden Miller and, guys like Scotty Roach and Erica Reed. Like, these wrestlers have been wrestling for years on this, quote unquote student show, but it's about giving the students opportunities, plus putting on a good show, because people are paying to see these. So we make sure that the talent's there, and we run these shows because we run a school, but we also run them as an example to show the students this is how wrestling should be, this is how shows should run, this is why we book. And if the students want to know, we often teach them, like, this is why we book the card like this is why we put this match here and that match there, this is why we need lighting on the show, because it helps the crowd be louder, because if they're dark and the ring's lit, like all these little things that go into a show, it's purely like a learning experience, I guess, which is why we run the shows. And we just have to make sure they don't lose money, because if once they start losing money, that's the last one we run. But yeah, it's stressful, it's hard, but it's a necessity, really. It goes hand in hand with the wrestling school.
And how do people watch those shows?
If you go to youtube.com/Mayhem Pro, all of our main shows are on there. They are free, full shows. You can watch them all in a row. The storylines correlate. And our most recent show, Mayhem Pro Anarchy Rules, will be up in the next 2 weeks. I've got to edit it myself, so give me some time. But yeah, that's another thing with running the promotion too. Like, I do all the posters, all the match graphics. I edit the videos myself. Jack Gibre helps me do the camera cuts now. Thank you, because that takes so long. We do the music. I do the music myself. Me and Fox take turns of who's pressing the music if a student can't help us. It's literally, Jake Navarra. His wife does the door. My parents cook the barbecue. We have Stuart help us with the bar. Like, it's literally like a family show, and we do so much work to make it work, which is why it's so stressful. But yeah, youtube.com/Mayhem Pro. Check it out.
And Facebook and Twitter when you've got shows to buy tickets, I guess.
Exactly, yes. Mayhem @MayhemPro_. I'm pretty sure is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just follow our page, please. Like, it's hard with the algorithms now. Anything that's promotional material, they sort of nix and make it hard to see. But yes, please follow our socials, because that helps immensely. Which again, just like JXT the wrestler, Mayhem Pro we're trying to build as a brand so that it gets eyes on us. And one thing I always hated as a wrestler was, often when I broke in, you would wrestle on a show, it would be filmed, and you never see it ever, and the promoter would just hide it on their hard drive somewhere, never let you see it, make you pay for your own footage, like carny bullshit like that. Whereas if our students or anyone wrestles for us, it's not about Mayhem Pro making money. It's about them being able to showcase their skills and get themselves and their name out there. So if you wrestle for Mayhem Pro, the show is going to be live for free. Not live, but it's going to be uploaded for free on our YouTube. So you can show people. So you can send it to WWE if you want to try and get a tryout. You can send it to AEW. You can send it to another local promoter and be like, hey, here's my match I had at Mayhem Pro last month. If you want to check it out, I'd love an opportunity. So that's another main reason we run those shows.
That's really cool. And who are your prodigies that are coming out of Relentless and Mayhem?
Well, I don't know when this will drop, but if this Friday night at Renegades of Wrestling, we have Santiago Silva making his Renegades debut, which we're really excited for. He's definitely a standout. We've had BDE, Big Dude Energy, Big Dave and Ricky Gilmore. They're the DMDU Tag Team Champions. They've won the Adrenaline Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles as well. They really hit the ground running. These guys came in with energy. No pun intended. They came in with a professional mindset, and they were a little bit more older and mature, which helped, and in shape and stuff. But yeah, they're great. We've got James Bolton, who does these amazing promos for each one of his shows, and he's doing a lot of good things. He's been wrestling at PCW a lot as well. And even just, we've got guys like Tommy A, Scotty Roach, Erica Reed is, although we didn't train her from the beginning, she is a bloody standout and works harder than anyone. Brocky Balboa, we've got a ton of them. I'm going to miss people out. Elaine Hope has been putting in a lot of work, and the Musketeer, they're there every single day pretty much. So yeah, hard work pays off when you put in the work.
Yeah, cool. And I'll just chuck in a cheap plug for our listeners as well. Ahead of this Renegade show, we have got a feature with Aisha up on the website after a tremendous interview, which was a lot of fun. Let's talk about WrestleBrania, which is coming up as part of the Melbourne Comedy Festival. WrestleBrania are running 3 shows on, I think, the 2nd, the 16th, and the 23rd of April. Tell us about WrestleBrania.
I'm very nervous because I'm not funny.
Which is ominous when it's part of the comedy festival.
Yeah, so I've done WrestleBrania before. One time I filled in very last minute. It's a comedy wrestling trivia show. It's 3-on-3. If you've seen Spicks and Specs, it's like Spicks and Specs but wrestling themed. And it's 3-on-3 trivia game, and it's gonna be Team JXT against Team Rove for the ultimate, wrestling trivia supremacy. And I like to pride myself on my wrestling knowledge and how much I know. So I know Rove does too, and Rove's got Chris Fresh and Rosevard on his team, and I've got Mark Williamson and Welchie from On the Turnbuckle, so it's going to be a pretty hard contest. But if you're into, we're all wrestling fans, you wouldn't be listening to this show if you don't like wrestling. It's local, it's in the city of Melbourne, it's part of the comedy festival, and we've got Rove on, who's a massive name in Australian media. So there's no reason not to come, really. It's a Sunday arvo. Come and have a drink, enjoy the show, and hopefully, if not me, the other guys can make you laugh, because I'm not too funny, but there's a few comedians on there, luckily.
It is only $26 per show, $62 for the season ticket for all 3 shows, which is a great deal. I can also inform people that the Catfish, which is in Fitzroy, has a really good cheesesteak that comes highly recommended for when you head down there.
There you go.
Now, we've got a 3-time... Rove comes with a lot of accolades. On one end of the spectrum, 3-time Gold Logie winner. On the other end of the spectrum, got whacked in the head by Jeff Jarrett at a WWA tour. How do you think his knowledge of wrestling, and particularly of wrestle crap, is going to be?
Wrestle crap. Oh, that's hilarious. I love World Wrestling All Stars or everything it was. As much of a disaster as it turned out, like, to be an Australian, like, I was only a kid, and be like, we have this massive company and it's here in Australia. And I remember as a kid, like, Rove, because Rove was huge at the time because he had his TV show. And as a kid, Mum used to let me stay up. I think it was on Monday nights for Rove Live. And I'm like, he's managing the front row, Nathan Jones. Like, this is massive. Like, so for me, like, Gold Logie, no, like, he managed the front row, Nathan Jones in the main event. Like, that's a bigger deal to me. You know, he's, I remember him interviewing Ric Flair and putting Ric Flair in the figure 4 on Rove. I remember he did this whole brawl with Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett gave him the TNA World title. And yeah, on that World Wrestling All-Stars show, Jarrett whacked him with a guitar. So I know Rove's got a long history with Jeff Jarrett, which I'll be playing on hopefully. And yeah, he knows his wrestling. Like, he's not, you know, coming into this blind. So it's not only a wrestling trivia challenge, but it's going to be a massive comedy challenge to try and be funnier. And he's trying to take my place. I like to be the biggest name in Australian wrestling, but I said that this team couldn't pull a bigger name than me, and I think they might have done it. So I've got to have to make him, you know, come down a few pegs.
It's a tall ask to be funnier than multiple-time Gold Logie winner, variety TV host.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm only a, you know, independent pro wrestler, but doesn't mean I don't love a challenge.
Yep. And I will just run quickly through the next shows. On the 16th, it's Tag Team Day with Wrestle Rock's Handsome Hunks in Anth Cava and Robbie Thorpe taking on Renegades of Wrestling's The Ambush in Jarvis and Murdoch. That's on the 16th of April. And then on the 23rd of April, we have Drunk Uncle Beej versus Lockie Hendricks.
Oh, bloody hell, that's going to be chaos.
I expect that one will be chaos. What can people expect if they come along?
You're going to have a great time. Like, if you even just feign interest in wrestling, you cannot not have a fun time. I obviously did it once before, and I've been and watched one of the shows as well. They're fun, like they're lighthearted. You have a drink, you have a good time, and it's like you said, it's wrestle crap. It's the fun parts of wrestling. Like, let's be honest, wrestling can be pretty stupid. So
it's the best part of it.
That's the best part, exactly, you know, and especially because you've got people within the business there too. So we can all have a joke about the silly side of wrestling and just enjoy the fact that we're all really big marks at heart, right? And all get along and get around that community.
That's awesome. So you can buy tickets to WrestleBrania on the Melbourne International Comedy Festival website. You've got a whole bunch of other stuff to promote as well, JXT. Tell us about JXTV and where we can buy your merch.
Yeah, I see that little, there's like a countdown timer in the corner, so I'm going to be nice and quick. Follow me on social media at JXT_official. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok even. I post funny videos of me singing on there. I'm on Facebook. follow my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JXT. I've done over 100 episodes of my vlog and even an hour and a half feature-length movie-style vlog. I've got matches up there. And if you go to youtube.com/MayhemPro and follow @MayhemPro_official, follow our promotion, please. Support us. We're trying to do some great things and get our myself out there, but our new guys as well. And if you want to be a pro wrestler, you want to be a referee or a manager, or just get involved in wrestling, IamRelentless.com.au/pro wrestling. Come sign up at the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling, where there's no tryout required. We'll teach you. I'll teach you myself.
Perfect. And Melbourne International Comedy Festival for WrestleBrania. Thank you so much for your time.
Team JXT versus Team Rope. Come down to WrestleBrania and have a laugh with me.
Perfect, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And I'm pretty pumped for WrestleBrania, let me tell you.
I'm very pumped as well, mate. I'll look forward to hopefully catching you at Renegades on Friday and then at WrestleBrania.
That's it. I'll see you there.
Perfect, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro. That's been great.
That's been PW Down Under for tonight with our excellent interview with JXT. Thanks so much for the time that he has given us. Once again, check out his school at I Am Relentless, his promotion at Mayhem Pro, and WrestleBrania. Tickets at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival website. Thanks so much for spending your evening with us. Have a great rest of your day, wrestling fans.